Hi, welcome to Relationship Talk with Beth Lee and
The IT guy.
We love a rainy night, but apparently Dan does not like that song.
No,
I just found that out, and I'm shocked
not a big fan.
because I love that song. Love it. You learn something new about your spouse every day, I guess. So, relationship talk. Happy Hump Day Wednesday. You've made it to the middle of the week, and we are so happy that you're here. I don't even know who's in the chat. Is anybody in the chat? I know Destroyer's here. Destroyer's here. Oh, Beth Lee. Oh, yeah, that was me.
Yeah,
I did put the link to our song Patience by Guns N' Roses in the chat because we're going to be talking about patience and kindness tonight. So I wanted to, hey, fellers.
What's up, fellers?
So we're going to be talking about that tonight. But anyways, if you want to go back and watch any of the previous episodes, you're more than welcome to do that. Share them out with your friends, your family, anybody that you think of that could benefit from listening to us talk about relationship stuff and maybe catch a few pointers on how to improve the relationship. We would love to see lots and lots of healthy relationships around us and relationships doing really well.
Yes.
That's the goal.
That's the goal.
Yes. Staying together and being happy. That's the goal.
Learning to appreciate each other.
Yes, exactly. So if you like our channel, please hit the like button. Please subscribe and feel free to comment. And if you haven't gone out yet and bought your copy of Making Marriage Last, there it is, by Beth Lee. Feel free to do that. You can get it on Amazon, Barnes & Noble. So feel free to do that. We would love your support. If you haven't gone out and gotten it yet, please do so. It's full of hidden gems.
Yes.
So last week we talked about apathy, and it was kind of an emotional show especially for us, because we've lived through that. And we based the show on Chris Stapleton's song, Either Way. And apathy, if you remember from last week, it's a lack of love, a lack of compassion for your spouse. It's when you don't really feel like you're in love anymore. And there is a solution. There is a way through it. It's learning to appreciate one another and look for the good points in one another and seeing positives in your relationship again. I think a lot of us forget that. To look for positives and really see positives where all you see is negatives. Because when you're looking for negatives, that's all you're going to see.
Yeah.
So learning to change your mindset and become more positive thinking. That's a real big key. And
yes.
Communicating with one another, talking about how you're feeling and really looking inward. That was part of the homework last week, listening to the song and reading the lyrics, and then also looking inward and thinking about any changes that you could make to improve your marriage. So, and then talking about it with each other. We did that last week and had some good conversation and made some good steps. So
made some good progress, really.
Yeah, it was good. So I think we've got a comment up here. Let's check it out. Oh, Colleen, hi. Can't stay, but you're right on the living room TV. Ooh, we're TV stars now. She did a shout out to Mr. Destroyer. Well, thank you so much, Colleen, for coming in and joining us. We appreciate it.
We appreciate it.
And we're on a TV screen.
That's really cool.
Amazing. We're TV stars. I feel so special. So this week we're going to be talking about really one of our favorite topics, patience and kindness. And patience, it's kind of a running theme throughout the book, as well as kindness. It's really been something that we've seen in our life. We've practiced it a whole lot throughout our marriage. So
pretty much had to.
Yeah.
Yeah, the lyrics to that song remind us to take things slow and have patience, and things will work out fine.
Yes, for sure.
There have been so many times when we've sung this song to each other to remind us to have patience,
Yeah.
because it's one of those things. I remember the first time I sang it to you. I think, or I might have sang it to you over the phone, but
I think so.
when I asked you to marry me, and I was
Yeah.
singing it to you, that was really cool. But
Yep.
yes, so it's been a recurring theme.
The funny thing is, one of the first times that we listened to the song together, we were both individually huge Guns N' Roses fans, and shout out to their band.
Yeah.
We were huge Guns N' Roses fans back in the 80s, the 90s, and so I had a greatest hits CD, and when Dan came out to visit, we were driving around Phoenix, and I was kind of showing him around the area because I knew that he was thinking about moving out to Arizona, and so in the background, we were listening to Guns N' Roses, and the lyrics to Sweet Child of Mine, I thought, it's talking about, remembering when we were little and stuff. And so I said, I always think about that. I always think about you when I hear that song. And he said, well, I always think about you when I hear the song Patience. And so we flipped through on the CD to that song, and the lyrics just really hit me. And, I remember sitting in the car and we're singing it, and just the lyrics just kept coming back and reminding me of all these things that we had been through already. And we hadn't even started dating yet. And so that it was kind of a no-brainer for us that would be our song. And, because we had waited so long to be together.
Yeah.
28 years we had waited to be together. And so it definitely became our song. So sorry, Axl Rose, but we're taking the song and it's ours now. So sorry.
Waiting for the right timing can be difficult. Timing is everything.
Yes.
Life changes in a second. Each decision we make affects the trajectory of our lives. Think about how and when you met your spouse. If certain events had been different, you may have never met each other.
That's so hard to even think about. It's one of those things that it's like deep thinking, like philosophical thinking, like, gosh, if this hadn't happened and this hadn't happened, and if these events hadn't lined up, we might not have met,
Yep.
I think about when we met, and when, if my parents hadn't gone on this marriage encounter retreat, me and my brothers wouldn't have been there. And if his parents hadn't shown up to greet everyone coming off of that retreat, he wouldn't have been there.
Yeah.
So we might not have met. And you were so cute then. He was only 7. But he was wearing these corduroy pants that made a lot of noise. So I noticed him instantly because every time he moved, his pants did the little sound, that corduroy pants make.
She had these big googly-eyed glasses, and her eyes are like a grayish blue, and they're just gorgeous. And I just remember it was like 2 magnifying glasses on her eyes, and I was like, wow, she's hot.
I was 7. I don't know if I was hot, but
well, whatever little kid speak, you can just fill it in there.
You're pretty.
Gosh, you're pretty.
And then he got punched, so.
Yeah, that happens.
Yes.
Yeah, if your parents had never attended that retreat, or my parents hadn't been there to greet the participants, we might not have met.
Yeah.
Crazy. The decisions our parents made led us to meeting one another, trust in God and God's timing.
God's timing is really everything. Because God knows the plans that he has for you. And even in Jeremiah, the book of Jeremiah, chapter 29, verse 11, he says, I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future.
Allow him to lead you down the path that you're going to take. How many times have you been sitting in traffic and then you pass by a terrible accident. You ever thought to yourself, if I had been driving down the road 5 minutes earlier, I might have been in an accident.
Yeah.
That might have been me.
Yeah. That's scary. It's a scary thing.
When we're doing all we can to leave the house on time, but things keep happening to slow us down, I take that as a warning that we're not meant to leave yet. Instead of getting upset that we're running late, I think God must want me not on the road yet.
Yes.
For some reason.
That's the thing. Like, I've actually passed by accidents and thought, if I had been here, if I had left on time, I would have been in that accident. Oh, and Destroyer said that was farts. He told you it was his pants.
But we just need to be patient. I mean, how many times have we pushed for our own timing instead of God's timing?
Yeah, I actually have a very good example of that. There's times where we push and we want our own way. We're kind of like little kids, where we don't want to wait. We want things when we want them. And my first marriage is a perfect example of not waiting on God's timing. My brothers, at the time I was 28 years old. My brothers had all gotten married. They were all starting families of their own. And my friends were getting married, and I just figured, well, now it must be my turn, and I had met my ex-husband, and I saw the warning signs, but I just overlooked them because I wanted to get married. And, he proposed, I said yes, we got married, and it just all fell apart because it wasn't the right plan for me, and it wasn't the right plan for him. And that's okay, because it wasn't God's timing. And so we really need to just try and practice patience and wait for God's timing. So it's so hard to do that sometimes, though.
Yeah.
You're praying and praying for something, and, you don't want to wait.
Right.
Oh, hey there. We got Mrs. 91 Mustang.
Hey!
Hi. So glad to see you. Say hi to your hubby for us. So this is kind of a hard story to talk about, but Dan and I had been married for, I think, almost 5 years, about 4.5 years. And we had been trying everything to have a baby of our own. And we had prayed for a long time for a baby. And we were praying every single day that the Lord would bless us. And we kept hope alive, and we kept reminding each other to trust in God's timing, not our own, because we wanted it so bad.
Yeah.
I wanted a little boy that looked like Dan. I wanted a little boy that, I knew he was going to get in trouble, but I wanted a little boy that was Dan. We went to fertility specialists. We were actively trying to get pregnant. My mom passed away in 2010, and we began helping my dad with his adopted kids. And then Dan started working out of state. So we kind of put our plan for a baby on hold because we figured it's just not the right time. But we were hoping that by some miracle, God would still bless us. So we kept praying, On Christmas Day of 2012, I started feeling a lot of back pain, a lot of stomach pain. And I kind of chalked it up to, I've been on my feet all day, and I've been running around a lot the last few weeks, so my back is just hurting. I've got back pains anyway, a lot of back problems. But so I just kind of figured it was just routine back problems. Didn't really think much of it. And then I began bleeding heavily after the next day or the day after that. It was right around there. And again, didn't really think too much of it. But after a couple of days of really bad pains and still continuing to bleed heavily, I ended up going to the doctor, and they ended up doing a pregnancy test, and the hormone levels were elevated. So they had said to me, well, either A, you're pregnant, or B, you were pregnant and you miscarried. So I remember we went to Village Inn. We went to a little restaurant, and it was Wednesday. It was Pie Day Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember we had just left the doctor's office and they were going to call us. And so I remember sitting there and Dan said, let's have a piece of pie and celebrate our baby, because I'm going to keep hope alive that you're pregnant. So we celebrated with pie. And then I think it was the next day that we got the call that I had miscarried. We were devastated.
Yeah.
And that was hard. But you know, we realized our little Joey or Abby wasn't meant to be. And then my dad passed away the next month. So we had to jump in right away with the kids and become guardians for them. And, you know, life just started rolling quick. You know, after he passed away, it was constant running for the kids and doing all this stuff for them, and, you know, becoming their guardians and, you know, taking care of 3 kids. And now we're parents of 3 kids. So we sat back it was a couple years after the miscarriage. We sat back and I said, you know, if God had blessed us with a baby at that time, I don't know that we would have been able to take the kids in when we did, because it might have just been too much for us. So in a way, it's kind of a blessing that God said no to a baby for us, and that he said yes to these 3 kids that really needed a home and really needed our love and our support.
Yeah.
So our patience led us to becoming parents of 3 kids that needed us.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a hard one though. That was hard. But go ahead. Did you want to say something?
No.
So a few years ago, I joined this writers group, and every month we had a writing assignment that we had to do. And the one particular writing assignment that we had to do, we had to take song lyrics and make them into some kind of a story. So I used song lyrics as the basis of this story called Patience at Last. So
Very cool.
I'm going to read through it. I'm hoping I can make it through it, but because that was a little emotional there with that story there for a second. So Patience at Last. Throughout our 45 years of friendship, our dating relationship, and our 15 years of marriage, patience has been a running theme. We practice patience on our own in our daily lives, waiting for school to be done, waiting for job promotions, waiting for decisions to be made, waiting for everything. Every time, just as it seems that life will go down a dark path or the blessing won't come, God surprises us and awards our patience with countless blessings. Patience by Guns N' Roses has been our song. It was the song we danced to the night you proposed.
Yep.
We danced to the song for our first dance at our wedding reception.
Mm-hmm.
At Last by Etta James was the song I walked down the aisle to. Remembering these special songs touches our hearts, making them giggle with joy and love. You flew out to Arizona on December 28, 2007, to visit your brother and sister-in-law who had recently moved here. You contacted me on MySpace to reconnect after several years. We agreed to spend some time together. I was so excited that you were coming here. I could hardly contain myself. We had so much to catch up on and so many memories to relive. We had originally met when we were 7. At 12, we were each other's first kiss. I moved to Arizona when I was 19 with my family, leaving you behind. We grew apart and moved on with our lives. I visited Illinois at 24 and 26, each time getting a chance to see you and kiss. Now, after all these years, we are getting a second chance. The week you were in Arizona flew by. We spent every moment possible together. We talked about our past, our present, and our future, each wondering if the other would be a part of it. By New Year's Eve, you had built up the courage to tell me you loved me. I expressed the same to you. You said you wanted to move to Arizona. So we talked about dating, marriage, family, careers. We were on the same page with all of our plans. Upon your arrival back in Illinois, you called me sounding lonesome, saying, "Shed a tear because I'm missing you." I'm still all right to smile. Girl, I think about you every day now. Was a time when I wasn't sure, but you set my mind at ease. There is no doubt you're in my heart now. I replied, take it slow, and it'll work itself out fine. All we need is just a little patience. Make it slow and we'll come together fine. All we need is just a little patience. As you packed your house and made arrangements to move to Arizona, time seemed to go slowly, although it was only a month and a half. You said, I sit here on the stairs because I'd rather be alone. If I can't have you right now, I'll wait, dear. Sometimes I get so tense, but I can't speed up the time. But you know, love, there's one more thing to consider. I smiled, saying, yes, I know what you're thinking. Take it slow and things will be just fine. You and I'll just use a little patience. Those long talks on the phone made you seem so close while we continued to plan our future, practicing patience every day. Excuse me. You arrived in Arizona just in time for Valentine's Day. 2 weeks later, you proposed in front of 200 people, and we danced to our song. What a beautiful night. We planned and prepared for our wedding day. June 21st, 2008 dawned a beautiful, perfect, sunny, warm day. I was beyond thrilled to marry my best friend. At last, our day was here. Time for us to begin our life together. Time for us to make our dreams a reality. Time for us. As I walked down the aisle to join you in front of the pastor, our family and friends, I remember thinking, at last, my love has come along. My lonely days are over, and life is like a song. At last, the skies are blue. My heart was wrapped up in clover the night I looked at you. I found a dream that I could speak to, a dream that I could call my own. I found a thrill to press my cheek to, a thrill that I have never known. You smile, and then the spell was cast, and here we are in heaven, for you are mine at last. Yes. So we've practiced so much patience, and at last we had one another.
Yes.
It was awesome. So kindness has also been a running theme throughout the book and here on our show. It's so important to be kind to one another and to others. Kindness shows compassion even when you don't agree on something. And I think the world could use a little more kindness.
Yeah.
We got talking last night because we like watching different YouTube things, and one thing that we've been watching lately is Karen's on YouTube, and
Karens versus Karens. I mean, like, yeah.
Karen's getting arrested, all these different, varieties of it. And a lot of them are just kind of funny, but some of them we just kind of sit back and we're like, people are just so mean and they're so rude. And why not just be kind to one another and understanding and have a little patience?
Right.
It's crazy.
Yeah, kindness has been a running theme throughout the book and in here on our show. It's so important to be kind to one another and to others. Kindness shows compassion even when you don't agree on something. I mean, you can agree to disagree if you have to.
Yes.
Sometimes feeling your spouse is being kind, even during an argument, can lead to a quicker resolution, to less feelings hurt, to fewer issues down the road.
Mm-hmm. I remember, I think it was like a few months after my dad died, and we were going to go and meet up with my brother and his family for dinner at my dad's favorite restaurant. And
Good papa.
that was Buca de Beppa, for those of you who don't understand. So
You gotta say it really fast.
so we were going to meet up with him, and Dan called me or texted me from work, and he said, hey, I'm going to stop and run some errands for you, and that way you don't have to do it, and then I'll just meet you at the restaurant. And me thinking that I hadn't even said anything about the fact that I was feeling sad or really missing my dad that day, and just really wanted one of Dan's hugs. And so I replied back I don't really want, I don't want you to meet us at the restaurant. I think it would be better if we went together. And Dan came, he texted back and he's like, I don't remember what you ended up texting back, but it was like something along the lines of, yeah, we can go over there. I can run these errands later, whatever you want me to do. And I texted back saying, I'm kind of getting upset by this conversation, and I don't want to say anything rude. I want to be kind to you. So I'm just not going to say anymore. And he called me and said, whatever you need me to do. And I said, I just need a hug, and he said, I'm on my way home. So he said to me later on that night that it really touched him that I showed kindness to him by not saying anything rude to him. And in turn, it made him want to be kind to me and take my feelings into consideration because I was being kind. Mm-hmm. And we just had a situation the other day where I was kind of stressing out a little bit. And Dan was so kind and just understanding and kind of talked us through the whole situation. And it really hit me that day that, he was just so kind, and it made me want to be kind. It made me, you're welcome. It made me want to just be nicer and, relax a little bit about the situation because he was being so kind, and just touched me a lot. But getting all sappy here. So there's going to be times where you're not going to want to be kind, especially during arguments. When
she's nagging at you, when she's irritable,
when he talks on top of you, when you have to remind him for the 900th time that you want the garage cleaned up. These are kind of make or break moments in your marriage where you can snap at your spouse or, and say what you want, or you can fall back on kindness and try to see things from his or her point of view. Perhaps she's nagging you because she feels like this topic has been discussed numerous times and it's already been agreed upon. Mm-hmm. Perhaps she's irritable because the kids are driving her insane and asking ridiculous questions all day, and they're not giving her a break. Your turn.
Oh. Perhaps he's talking on top of you because he wants his voice to be heard for the first time during this discussion. Perhaps he has not cleaned the garage yet because his dad's tools are stored out there, and seeing them makes him miss his dad and feel close to his dad.
Yeah. I'm very guilty of that. Like we'll have a discussion about something and I'm talking and talking and talking, and Dan will just start talking on top of me, and I'll say, I don't understand why you have to keep talking on top of me. And he goes, because I haven't even said anything yet during this conversation. And I'm like, oh yeah. I'm like, okay. Yeah, it's your turn to talk now. That's why the 2-minute rule is so important. We use that all the time because that way we both get a chance to talk. And, yeah. Because I don't want to talk over the top of Dan.
Think about what your spouse might be going through. Put yourself in their shoes.
Yes.
Try to see things from their perspective.
Yes.
If each spouse puts each other's feelings above his or her own, the marriage wins. Above all, be kind. Think beyond yourself. It's not always about you.
That's a hard lesson to learn. And I think a lot of people, especially, I don't think it matters how old you are when you get married. I think that's a really difficult transition to make, where you're living your single life, where you can do whatever you want and go where you want. You can talk to whoever you want. And then all of a sudden now you're married.
Right. And now you got to think about the other person. You have to put them above you. You have to make their needs your needs and more.
Yes. And it's really hard to get into that kind of thinking, that it's not always about you. Sometimes it's about your spouse, and a lot of people think of marriage as this even partnership where you're standing side by side. I don't look at it that way. I look at it more of where it's kind of like where you're doing the hand thing, where you're putting your hands on top of each other. And so you're putting your spouse's feelings above your own each time. And so if both people are doing that, you're always looking out for the other person. They're always looking out for you. And it's that reciprocal thing all the time. There's going to be times where one of you is stressed out, or one of you is sad about something, or just not emotionally available at that point. I know I wasn't emotionally available after my parents died, but you took over and you became the star of our relationship. That's what's needed sometimes. Sometimes you just have to realize it's about the other person right now. It's not about you. And that's hard for us to think about. It's hard for us to think beyond ourselves sometimes, because our world is a very selfish place. Our world says, think about yourself, and it's all about you and whatever you want, and
however you feel, and
yep.
Whatever you think you are, and yeah,
it's the Burger King mentality. Have it your way. Marriage isn't a Burger King mentality. You can't always have it your way, because it's not always about you. Sometimes it's about your spouse. And so we have to put each other first and think beyond ourselves and be kind. So for homework this week, what I'd like you to do is listen to the song Patience by Guns N' Roses. We have a link to the song in the comments up at the top. Yeah, it's pinned.
Yep.
I don't know how to do that.
I do.
I know. So Dan did that. So you can listen to the song, and I'd like you to read the lyrics and just think about patience in your lifetime. When you've practiced that in your life, think about God's timing in your life. And if certain events hadn't occurred when they did, what would have been different in your life? So try and think about that a little bit, and try and be more patient this week with your spouse. Try and give your spouse some grace this week, instead of, reacting very quickly to something that's said. Try and be more patient. And then second thing is, think about a time when your spouse was showing kindness to you. Perhaps it was during an argument, or perhaps it was just a random occurrence, it could have been very small, but think about a time when your spouse was being kind and how that made you feel. And this week, try and show some kindness to your spouse every day. If both of you are showing kindness to one another every day, think about how much better your marriage would be. It could be getting your spouse something to drink, or it could be letting the dogs out so your spouse doesn't have to do it. Whatever the case might be, try and show some extra kindness to your spouse this week.
Gathering the garbage from upstairs and bringing it downstairs,
so you don't have to.
So I don't have to.
Yes. See if that makes a difference in your relationship. And then at the end of this week, so sometime before next Tuesday, sit down with each other during your us time and talk to each other about the difference that you saw in your marriage. Because I know that when we're showing kindness to one another and purposely doing that, it becomes easier where we don't even think about it. we just start being more kind.
Yeah.
So, and it makes life easier, and it makes you happier, to be able to do that for one another. So that's what we would like you to do. Show some more patience to one another, show kindness, and then talk about the difference that you saw in your relationship this week. Next week is our Halloween party. So we're doing Halloween the Wednesday before Halloween. So yes, it should be fun.
Yeah, it would be fun.
Let your friends know, let your neighbors know, let anybody, it'll be family friendly. So
We're gonna dress up, but nothing inappropriate.
yes, yes. And there will be Halloween candy that we'll be eating too. So yes. So I suggest that if you come to the Halloween party, bring your candy and share some with each other. We're going to be talking about some paranormal experiences that we've had in our life. So we've had some together, and we've also had some when each of us was living apart. So it should be interesting. So bring your ghost stories and feel free to share them in the chat while we're going live. And we might just have some spooky spectators. We don't know. So it should be a blast. So I hope you guys can make it. And that's it for this week. So thank you for your patience, and thank you for joining us. We love you guys so much, and we're so happy that you came to join us this week. And we will see you next week.
See you guys.
Bye.